Hey everyone, my name's Amber Bingen. I'm a curriculum specialist at Norwood Middle School, and today we're going to look at how to set up and use your Google Classroom so it's really user-friendly for students in your classroom or students and guardians at home working remotely. So let's jump in. First thing you're going to want to know how to do is get to your Google Classroom. So once you log in to your Anderson County account, you've got your apps right up here in the upper right-hand corner. If you click on that, you should scroll down and you'll find Google Classroom. From here, any classes that you already have created or classes that you're a part of will show up. If there's anything that you don't want on your main screen, you can go ahead and use the ellipsis on the upper right-hand corner to archive the class or leave the class if you don't want to be an instructor in it anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and archive this science class that I'm not using anymore. And then you'll want to create your new classes for this school year. So in the upper right-hand corner, you can click the plus, and this is where you can either create a class or join a class. To create a class, you want to think of a way to name the class so it's very clear to parents and students who's teaching it and what the subject is. So instead of just calling it science or third block, I suggest using your last name and then your subject. Now below that, on the section, this is where you can put a special identifier for your class, whether it's first period, blue group, third block, whatever you'd like to call it. And you can include your subject again. And then you can include your room number. Once your class is created, there we go, you can see that you've got 4 main tabs at the top. You can check once you've logged in that you've got the correct name and that you have the correct identifier. And then we're going to go ahead and actually back up to my main page and jump into a class that is already created here. So you'll notice up top you have a stream, classwork, people, and grades. So just a quick overview of these 4 items. The stream is almost like your announcements page or like a stream you'd think of with Twitter or Facebook or something like that. So on your stream, it's ideal for organization to just let this be for announcements and not for posting classwork. So as you can see here in this imaginary class, I have a Monday announcement kind of sharing what I did over the weekend with my class and then a little preview of what we're going to do this week. And then I have the feature turned on to where my students can comment back to me if they'd like to. And we'll talk about how you can turn that off if you have comments that you don't really want, your students posting openly without you previewing it first. We can actually turn that off in just a minute. So that's your stream. And then here we've also posted like a recap of the week, what we learned, some misconceptions that students had, and what we're going to work on next week. The next tab is where you actually post and organize your classwork. So under this tab, it can get kind of messy if you're just posting assignment after assignment after assignment. So we're going to come back here in a minute and really talk about organizing it. But this is like the meat of your Google Classroom. This is where all your assignments go, where you can check on who's completed work, who hasn't, and where you can post videos and other resources for your students. The 4th tab here is your People tab. So this is where you can add other teachers if you'd like to have a co-teacher or another adult in the classroom running it with you. And then here you've got the students that are in your classroom. So one way to add new students to your classroom is to click the Invite Students button. And here you can just type in the student's email and it will send them an invite to be in your class. Another more simple way to add students to your classroom is actually using your class code, which you can see right as you log into your Google Classroom. By clicking this button, you can make your class code large and you can instruct all students to go to Google Classroom and join your classroom. Okay, and then finally, the Grades tab will allow you to keep up with graded assignments in an organized, easy to see manner. So you can see from the assignments I've posted in this class, I have one student who has a graded assignment and the others do not. Okay, so let's back it up to the stream and see what we can do with our stream. Up here in the upper right-hand corner, your little gear gives you settings for your classroom. So I've got the class named, as we talked about before, and then I've got some choices that I can make when setting up my stream. So one thing is allowing students to post and comment on your stream. Depending on your teaching style, your class, what you'll be doing with your Google Classroom, you may really want your students to be able to post and comment openly on your stream. So there's that option. You may want your students only to be able to comment but not make posts. So there's that option. Or you may just want to be the only person who can add things to the stream. So you would use the only teachers can post option there. So classwork on the stream. This is where we talked about keeping your stream separate for just announcements and having your classwork under the classwork tab. So what I've chosen to do here is hide notifications, so my classwork doesn't pop up on my stream at all. Or you can show condensed notifications, or you can allow attachments and details, all your classwork to go right on your stream. But again, the hide notifications really lets you keep them in separate places. You can also choose to show deleted items that you've removed from the classroom, but you still might want to be able to see them. You can turn that feature on. Or they have this really cool option for guardian summaries. So if you want to send automated emails to parents who have joined your Google Classroom, you can turn this feature on and set it up. It'll send emails to parents on a weekly basis with just a recap of how the student did, if they have any missing work, what's coming up next week. Of course, there's pros and cons to doing it this way, so I'd encourage you to really read about it and maybe test it out before you commit to that. Okay, going back to the classroom here. Now you also have the option to use the Meet feature, generate links here, but as we know, we're using Zoom, we're purchasing Zoom for Anderson County this year, so we're gonna have a lot of updated and I guess more detailed features through Zoom, but this is here as an option if you need to use it. And then for grading, you can choose to give your students an overall grade, give them a grade based on total points, or you can even match it to your grade book weighted by category. Right now I have selected no overall grade, just because some things go into Google Classroom, some things get done in class, and I don't want students to be confused about their grade in Google Classroom versus their grade in Skyward, so I just kind of leave that feature turned off. If you want to though, you're allowed to show students their overall grade, and you can even add your grading categories there. Okay, so I'm going to save those changes. And we're going to move on to the classwork section. So in the classwork section, like I mentioned before, if you post assignments, they'll just kind of come up in the order in which they were posted, which is great, but it can get a little bit messy, especially once you're a few months into the school year and you've just got a ton of assignments posted. So what we're going to learn how to do first is create topics. That way it's easy to organize your work and it's easy for students to find their work for that week. So up here with the Create button, you can create a new topic, and we'll do one called Practice. And now that I have this topic here, I can actually drag and drop any assignment that I want to into that topic, or I can drag it and put it back where it was with the week of August 17th. So now that I have the topic created, you can see over here I can toggle between my topics, and it just makes finding your work really simple. All right, so next let's work on creating an assignment. When I go to create an assignment, I have the option of making an assignment, a quiz, a question, material, or reusing an old post. Let's start with just creating an assignment. One piece of advice when you're creating the title for your assignment is to just pick some method to use consistently. You'll notice here that I've chosen to title my assignments with the day of the week and the date. And that's just the title. Once you open the assignment, you can get more in detail with what the students are working on, attached videos or worksheets or anything that goes with it. So just pick something that makes it easy to navigate for yourself, and especially for students trying to explain to their parents what is on their Google Classroom. So again, we'll go create our assignment, and we can call this one Monday, July, what even is today? Let's just call it today. Thursday, July 25th. And then here I can actually put the instructions. Whoop, I'm on this weird keyboard. Okay, obviously your instructions can be more detailed than that. With your assignment, you may want to add an attachment, something out of your Google Drive, a link to another website or an activity, or just a file. So if you want to do a link, you're going to want to go ahead and go to the other website, copy your link, come back and paste it here. Let's practice adding something from Google Drive. When you create your Google Classroom, it automatically makes you a folder in your Drive for your classroom. So that's nice because you can upload material straight to that folder, and then they're all there waiting for you when you're ready to post. So let's take this Eureka Math assignment, and we're going to go ahead and attach it to today's assignment. So here's something you definitely want to think about when you're posting your assignments. You may want students to just view the file and work separately somewhere else. You may want them to edit the file, or most likely, you want to make a copy of that file for each student. When you select this button, the student can open this activity and work on it, and it will save their changes separately from everyone else in the class. So it's like handing out an individual worksheet to each student. You can also add videos really easily through this YouTube feature. So say I had a dividing fractions video. If I knew the exact title of it, I would type it in here, and then it brings me straight to YouTube. So if I had the exact title of the video, I would type it in, select your video, and it adds it straight to your assignment. So that's a really nice feature there. Once you've got all your assignment ready to go, your instructions are there, you've got your attachments, you're going to want to go over here and think about who you want to assign it to. Is it going to all students, or do you have something different for small groups? And which classes you want to assign it to. I may be assigning this to all my academic classes or just this one class. You can also adjust the points. You can have it out of however many points you'd like, 0 to 100, or you can leave it ungraded. If you leave it ungraded, it won't show up in your grading tab, so that's something you just want to consider. Would you like it listed there or not? And then this is a really important feature, the due date. You really want to select a due date, if at all possible, when assigning your assignment, because it lists it on the stream for students as something upcoming, and we'll look at that in just a minute. And it also automatically sends your students an email if they have missed an assignment. So if you take the time to go ahead and select a due date for your assignment, and a time if you'd like to, that feature, like I said, sends the students an email to remind them. It automatically adds it to their Google Classroom calendar, and it reminds you too that you've got assignments coming up. And then here's where we can work with our topics. You can choose to add it to a topic that already exists. So we just created this practice one. I would add it there. I'm not going to add it there because I'm going to show you what you can do in case you forget to add it to an assignment or to a topic, which I've done many times. And then these last two things here, you can add a rubric if you'd like students to see how they're going to be graded, which is a great idea. You can import your own, reuse one that you've already created, or create a new rubric. And then you can turn on this originality reports feature, which I've never used this, but I read a little bit about it, and it seems really cool. It kind of gives your students' work a once-over to make sure that it's original and not matching too closely with anything on the internet. So it gives the students a chance to run that report for themselves to see, and then it gives you a chance as the teacher to check to see if their work is original. Okay, so I've got my assignment ready to go. I have a due date. and I have not assigned it to a topic. When I go to assign it, I can go ahead and assign it right now, or I can schedule it for a future date. If I know that I want to post all my assignments for next week on Monday, I could go ahead and schedule it for Monday of next week to pop up at a certain time. And this is an amazing feature, especially if you have a substitute teacher coming in, because you can create everything ahead of time, and then you don't have to worry about it when you're out of school. It will just pop up and assign at the time that you ask it to. I'm not going to do that right now because I want to show you what it looks like once it posts. So I'm going to go ahead and assign this. And you see I didn't put it under a topic, so it's just right up here at the top of my classwork. I do want it to be in a topic because I'd like to keep things pretty organized here, so I can just click it and drag it down to the topic I'd like it to be under. Another way to do that is you can click the 3 dots on the right side and you can edit your assignment and add it to a topic that way. If you do make a mistake creating an assignment, no big deal. You can always click those 3 dots and go back and edit. So when you're creating your topics, I really suggest that you think about timing. It makes it really easy for students, in my experience, to see their work a week at a time. And then, like I said, under each assignment, you can have all of your extra attachments, your videos, your activities, links to other websites, but it keeps the student from having to go to multiple places just to complete one assignment, and it makes it a lot easier on them. Okay, so moving on from the classwork, well, let's create one more so we can see the other options. We can also create a quiz, which takes you right to a blank Google form. So again, if I wanted to keep it consistent, I could name it today's date. I said July before, didn't I? It's June. I can change that though, no problem. And then I've got my instructions. And then if I go straight to this Google form that it's already linked for me, I can create my quiz that way. And I can describe, I can give all of my instructions here, and then I can create my quiz using multiple choice, short answer, paragraph, check boxes, drop down. The options are endless here on Google Forms. It's a great resource for doing assessments or classwork, and it automatically links to that Google Classroom page. Okay, so there's my blank quiz that I've created. I want to go ahead and assign a due date so we can see what that looks like in the stream in a second. And I do want to put it under our practice topic. So I'll go ahead and assign that. And there we have both of them there. If I decided that I wanted students to see this before that, I could just click and drag it above and reorder them so it's in the order you'd like it to be. And then this is the one that I named incorrectly, so let's go ahead and change that. You can just change it from July to June and save my changes. All right, so your other options here, a question. This is a really cool feature. It's almost like an exit ticket or even just like a bell ringer to get students going. You can pose any question, and then you can have an option of doing short answer or multiple choice. And once you've created your question and your instructions here for answering the question, you can add links, videos, short answer question, and then when you go to assign it, again, a due date is such a good idea. I'm going to put it under a topic, and then you can decide, do you want students to be able to respond to one another, or do you just want to see their answer? And do you want students to be able to go back and edit their answer once they've finished it? So instead of assign, it says ask this time, and you have the same option. You can schedule it for later, save it as a draft, or discard it. I'm going to go ahead and ask my question so you can see what that looks like. So now when students click on this, They've got their question right there, and they can type in their answer, and you'll automatically be able to see how many students have completed it versus how many you assigned it to. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the stream so we can see what I was talking about with the due dates. So by creating a due date, this right here was blank before, but now that I've created a due date, as soon as students or parents log on to Google Classroom, they can see what's upcoming and that they have 2 things due on Saturday. And then they can click View All if they want to see all of the assignments scheduled in the pipeline. Okay, I think that pretty much covers the basics. If you're ever stuck on Google Classroom, you can always go back to the beginning and go to the bottom left-hand corner and use this little Help Center feature. If you open the Help Center, you can type in any question you have, and it should guide you to a resource that can help you figure it out. I really appreciate you all taking the time to watch this video. Again, organizing your Google Classroom makes life so much easier. So I hope this resource helped you, and I hope you all have a wonderful school year. Thank you.